Okay, and there's many more applications. When I think about this, they just come one after the other. Okay. Okay, now there's no reason to choose a credit to be worth $10. Okay, there's no reason to choose it to be worth $10. In fact, I chose $10 because that's generally what I think what the credits in our Shire Hours system are worth. Okay, so if we log on to the shirehours.com and get an account there, you can make connections with people in two different, what I might call currencies, or two different units. Okay, one unit is what's called Shire Hours. Another unit is called Shire Ounces. Okay, so Shire Ounces is just an ounce of silver. One Shire ounce is a debt. Like if you owe somebody 1 Shire ounce, that should be a debt of 1 ounce of silver. Okay, and if you and a Shire Hour, there's a gentleman agreement that 2 Shire Hours are worth 1 Shire ounce. Okay, that's kind of a gentleman's agreement. Now, if you're implementing the system, well, sometimes it confuses people that there's this one unit that's called Shire Hours. Okay, the reason why it's called Shire Hours is because generally 1 unit should be worth an hour of unskilled labor. Okay, or maybe mildly skilled labor. Okay, but a real labor where you're not lollygagging. Okay, now that's generally a way to think of it, but there's nothing, if you're using this type of system, there's nothing stopping somebody agreeing to work at 0.85 Shire Hours per hour, right? Maybe if it's some easy task to do, or something that's not too hard, or maybe it's a very skilled task. There's nothing stopping people working at a rate of 3 Shire Hours per hour, 2 Shire Hours per hour, or so, and so on. To avoid some confusion, I'm going to think in terms of Shire Ounces from here on out. I don't know what else I have to say about this, but we'll see. Okay. And now, the advantage of tying this type of credit system to silver is that it is more or less inflation proof. Okay. An ounce of silver is an ounce of silver. Okay. Its value might actually change. Its value in terms of dollars, like its cost in terms of dollars, might change. But it's still an ounce of silver. Okay. And well, if more money is printed than is appropriate, or I don't think printing any amount of money is appropriate. If money is printed, then it's, you know, we've seen the spot prices of silver go up. Of course, it spiked up to 20 a few years ago, and now it's slowly working its way back up to 20, right? And I think this time when it goes through 20, it'll keep going. I don't know how high, maybe 25 or something, but this time it's firmly at 20. The last time it was just a spike. So, and it's going to continue, okay? In 1913, what? An ounce of silver, or an ounce of gold, let's use gold instead of silver, but an ounce of gold was worth $20. Okay, look at what gold's worth today, over $1,000. Okay, and the trend continues, and it's been the biggest, and really we haven't had this trend since until Nixon. Okay, Nixon's the guy that was a straw that broke the camel's back, that changed the monetary policy so that this horrible loss of value of your money, the purchasing power of your money, actually happens. Okay. Of course, you can say there's problems in 1913 and there's problems in FDR's time too. Yes, but the main one was when Nixon took us off the gold standard. I really do wish to encourage you to read about this type of system. You might go to ripplepay.com, where Ryan Fugger wrote up what he was thinking when he developed it, and you can go to shirehours.com, where it writes up the slightly different incarnation of the same program. And I would encourage you to look at it and see if it's useful. See if you can find some trust relations, especially if you're in New Hampshire. You don't have to be in New Hampshire, But especially if you're in New Hampshire, try to see if you can find some trust relationships and set those up. Okay? You might set them up not knowing when you're going to use them, but you might find them useful down the line, right? So you want to pay somebody $3. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Here you go. So that would be like 0.15 Shire ounces right now. Okay, so I would encourage you to learn about it. Once you're comfortable with it, set up an account and get some trust relationships started. I imagine if you only had 3, and if everybody went out and had 3, then that would make what I call a connected graph. Everybody would be connected to everybody, and with this system you can make a payment to somebody you don't trust by making a payment through somebody you do. Okay, so basically, the way I view it, if you're studying math, I view it as a graph, and the property I want the graph to be connected, that I can get from any from any node to another node through a path involving the edges. Here the edges are the trust relationships, the nodes are the people. Okay, so anyway, if that makes sense, that's exactly how I see it. That's a picture I would like to convey. And there's a cool breeze. Okay, so that's just a short introduction to Shire Hours. Are there any questions? Yes, James.
When you're ready to cash out and you don't have an even number of silver owed to you,
right?
How does that work?
Well, in the current world, I would just take some Federal Reserve notes maybe to do that. But what I'm doing practically, if it's less than an ounce, I don't even worry about cashing out. Right? I just have some credit in the system. There's an example of this. I have a credit of 0.3 Shire ounces. Okay, or 0.6. It gets confused. 0.3 Shire ounces, or Shire hours. Excuse me. I have a credit of 0.3 Shire hours. So how do I pay this back? Well, with my trading partner. Well, just so happens, this is going to give away who it is. No, it won't. This just so happens he has a party every year. Okay, and when at this party he has a $10 suggested donation. Well, if I don't get paid back within the year, instead of donating $10, I'll give him $7 and the 0.3 credit back, right? So he has to pay me because I just won't donate the whole amount. Anyway, and I think that's fair because he got a loaf of bread and $7 for his party. Anyway, because 0.3 extra hours for the loaf. So that's another way. So I would encourage more creative ways to pay back debts like that. And if you really do have a trade relationship, you're not just going to trade once, okay? And in this community, we have continual trade with certain people. I mean, imagine if Mama Ali was in New Hampshire. How many of us would be trading with her? And for example, that guy who owns the tap room.
Murphy.
Murphy. Keith Murphy. Right? He owns a tap room. Well, he has lines of credit with people. I'm not sure if it's paid ahead or paid as you go, but he has that type of thing. Well, he could implement Shire Hours to actually keep track of all that if he desired. Okay. Now, in his case with the business, he would need it to be more automated. That might take some programming to do. Right? But if once people start using it, then the value in actually automating some of this stuff would be there. Are there other questions?
Sure. Speaking of not centralizing, where's the server?
Okay, very good question. So that's well, where is any server when you go to a website? I believe there's a guy in South Carolina that set up the server. I don't know if he set it up remotely or in South Carolina.
Is it just one? It is
centralized.
That maintains all of the connections.
The honest answer is yes. There's one server that does it. Ryan's initial plan was that he wanted to have actually set this up where it could be a peer-to-peer network. Okay, so that means I could set up my own server, and you could have your server, and we might have 50 accounts on each one, and have it set up so each account could talk to each other. That was the original thought that Ryan Fugger wanted to introduce. I kept waiting for that P2P, peer-to-peer thing to come out. I just kept waiting for it, and eventually I stopped watching, and I don't believe it ever came out. Okay? Because at some point Ryan Ryan got discouraged because it's kind of a catch-22, because it's not useful unless people use it, and people don't use it because it's not useful, you know, right? It's a catch-22, so there needs to be a spark that gets that going, and Ryan recognized this and kind of stopped doing it. So the answer is yes, there is a centralized server. The original concept is that no, there shouldn't be a centralized server, and perhaps there could be a workaround, but I do believe that's a difficult problem to solve.
How many users are using Shire Hours?
I say there's 106, almost 200 accounts. I say that almost many of them are probably active. So, and some are very active, such as Jack, or I know there's a debt on there up to 100 Shire Hours. Like there's a large debt on the server, and what that is in our community, somebody was helping another person build a house. Okay, so they accumulated a large credit by just helping this person build a house. When the person with the credit builds their house, what's going to happen? They're going to repay the debt by the other person's going to help build their house. And I think that's just a wonderful arrangement. Example. Back to the question. The question was how many users? I'd say around 100 or so that would log in and actually make a payment.